This is a short introduction on how to operate an articulated hauler. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the hauler and also briefly go into the daily maintenance. This is a Volvo BM A35, a 35-ton articulated hauler. It has a 6-cylinder turbocharged Volvo diesel engine with an output of 326 horsepower. A unique feature of Volvo BM haulers is the fully automatic power shift transmission. This feature makes it possible for the operator to keep his hands on the wheel at all times and saves him from shifting gears about 1,600 times in a day's work. The A35 also has a Volvo BM drop box with 2-stage design, power takeoff and differential. The 6-wheel drive axles have fully floating axle shafts with planetary type hub reductions. The A35 is equipped with 1 longitudinal and 3 transverse differential locks. They all have 100% lockup. Volvo BM haulers offer a choice between 4- and 6-wheel drive. 4-wheel drive is used under good conditions, and 6-wheel drive and diff locks are used under difficult driving conditions, when 4-wheel drive is not sufficient. This hauler has fully hydraulic disc brakes in 2 circuits, one for the front axle and one for the bogie. It also has a hydraulic retarder built into the transmission, permitting fast and safe downhill hauls. The A35 has a maximum speed of 53.3 kilometers an hour and a body volume of 19 cubic meters. Let's start the working day by going through a few things before starting up. First, you turn on the main battery switch and check the level of hydraulic fluid. Then you climb up and fold the mirror. Open the hood and check the engine oil level. While you're sitting here, you can easily check the brake fluid level. From this position, you should also check the level of engine coolant, and then close the hood. Before getting into the cab, check the oil in the drop box. Now it's time to get into the cab. Start by adjusting the operator's seat first lengthwise, then release the catch on the backrest to be able to adjust the height of the seat. Then adjust the backrest so that it gives you a comfortable working position. Another important safety detail is to check the rear view mirrors and adjust them if necessary. Fasten your seat belt. Start the engine. Then check all the control lamps, switches and instruments. Also check the pedals to see that everything functions properly. Read the instruction manual before operating an unknown machine. Now it's time to start the day's work. Release the parking brake and put the gear shift in the drive position. Let's drive over to the excavator and fill the body. When you arrive at the loading site, be sure the hauler is standing still before shifting into reverse. When reversing into position, make sure you look carefully in the rear view mirrors. Before loading, the excavator operator will tell you when you're in position. Then stop. Always keep the brake on while loading and put the gear shift in neutral. When loading is complete, put the gear shift in drive and get moving. When leaving the road to drive in terrain, first engage the longitudinal diff locks and the 6-wheel drive. As the going gets tougher, engage the front transverse diff locks to improve steering ability. And when conditions are really bad, engage the rear transverse diff locks. And the hauler will go anywhere you want. If the wheels should spin, just release the accelerator. Once back on the road, you won't need the diff locks and the 6-wheel drive, so now you can disengage them. Now you can also switch to the high-speed range in the drop box, which will go into effect after stopping the hauler and starting again. When approaching a downhill slope, be sure to use the retarder. This makes downhill runs safer and your regular brakes will last a lot longer. See the instruction manual for more information. To extend the RPM range in each gear, use the shift inhibitor to further improve retardation. While using the retarder, transmission temperature will rise. And when disengaging the retarder, the temperature will fall again. Back on even ground, disengage the shift inhibitor. When going uphill and there's a risk that the surface may be slippery, engage the longitudinal diff lock and 6-wheel drive to make sure you have enough traction. Then just keep your hands on the wheel and let the automatic transmission do the job. When you're back on the level road again, disengage the diff lock and 6-wheel drive. When approaching the dumping site, first engage the retarder and then the brakes to stop the loaded hauler effectively. When you come to a standstill, put the gear shift in reverse and slowly start backing up. When reversing uphill, engage the longitudinal diff lock and 6-wheel drive for enough traction and check the rear view mirrors carefully. Use your right foot on the accelerator and your left on the brake pedal. Before dumping, put the gear shift in neutral and keep your foot on the brake pedal. Then pull on the dumping control to raise the body and dump the load over the edge. After you've dumped the load, push the dumping lever all the way forward to start lowering the body. Move the dumping lever to the floating position and the gear shift into drive and start moving slowly forward. The body will lower itself while you drive away. On some job sites, local rules may demand that the body is lowered before driving away. After finishing the day's work, you'll drive the hauler back to where you started in the morning. When parking, apply the parking brake, put the gear shift in neutral, and leave the engine running. Climb out of the cab and check the oil in the transmission. Then take out the grease gun and climb down from the machine. And lock the articulated joint. Then grease the fittings on the steering cylinders and the articulated joint. As well as the frame joint fittings and steering cylinders on the right-hand side. After this is done, release the lock on the joint and get back inside the cab. Now stop the engine by pulling the stop button. Then switch off the ignition and remove the keys. Lock the cab door and climb down. Throw the battery disconnect switch and fill up with diesel fuel to avoid moisture in the tank and to be ready in the morning. Now for some very important safety tips. When driving on curves, adapt the speed to the load and inclination. When driving on lateral gradients, you should exceed 15% only in exceptional cases. The actual limit is much higher, but obstacles and different ways of loading can have a negative effect. Never drive on a stretch of road without making sure that road edges and the road surface can withstand the weight and ground pressure of the hauler. Always keep the interior of the cab nice and clean. Apart from having a better working environment, the pedals and controls will be less slippery. Never have loose objects in the cab. They could cause damage or injury in case of an accident. When dumping, the hauler should always be straight. Make sure that no objects or freezing keep the load from leaving the body. This is especially important when the hauler is equipped with a tailgate. Always lock the dumping control. The articulated joint. And the body before attempting any work on them. To get as much production as possible out of the hauler, it's important to get to know all its functions and features. So study the instruction manual and be sure to get to know the machine properly. Here you will also find facts about basic preventive maintenance and safety. If you do this, we're sure it will provide the results you have a right to expect. After all, you've chosen a Volvo BM, the leading articulated hauler in the world.